This week, I want to break down and invite you to harness one of the most potent and confusing aspects of medicinal literature and data. And I'm going to start by calling it the placebo effect, because that's how it's currently referenced, and particularly in medicine. But what it boils down to is that somewhere in the 30 to 50% range, I think some studies show it at 38%, some show it at 40%, and I'm sure there are other studies, that what patients believe in a hospital determines the outcome by, a good 30 to 50% demographic or margin, more than the medicine or the surgery that has been done. And there's one case study that shows knee surgery, for example. People come in with knee pain, and in half of the patients, the doctor does the knee surgery, and in half of the cases, the doctor just does a little incision with a knife, and then says they have done the knee surgery. And there's no difference between those two groups, the group in which the surgery has actually been performed and the group in which the surgery was said to have been performed, and the patient believed it because they saw a knife. There's also cases of hypnosis in which people go through horrendous, even an amputation, without feeling any pain. And there's a great deal of drug studies, and on the more, I guess, generous side of assessing the pharmaceutical industry's obsession with advertising, one could say that the pharmaceutical industry, having understood just, in many cases, the placebo effect, what it boils down to, the placebo effect, is more potent than the benefit of the drug. In other words, the drug may show to have a 10% benefit, but the belief in the drug may show to have a 42% benefit. So if a pharmaceutical industry can harness the 42% benefit of the belief in the patient plus the 10% of the actual drug, that now they've got a 52% success rate in the combined, but most of that is the placebo. And so advertising would make sense, because advertising would help convince patients that the drug was actually real. And most people wouldn't buy the drug if they said you had a 10% chance of recovery plus certainty of numerous side effects. And so the placebo effect is a really big deal. It affects trillions of dollars in the world economy, and science hasn't quite sorted out how to deal with it, particularly the rationalist, reductionist, materialist scientists, because in their paradigm, consciousness itself is an aberration, an illusion, an issue of random chance. So if this thing that supposedly doesn't exist has more potency than the scientifically engineered medicine, it throws water on the dogmatic aspects of science, the zealot faction within the scientific community, who is not only certain that science is valid, but is sure that everything that science doesn't currently understand is invalid. So it's a big deal if you can have a 40% benefit for free with no side effects in various areas of life. And perhaps, who wouldn't want that? Wouldn't it be nice, for example, if our health costs would just drop by 40% because we learn to harness the placebo effect? Wouldn't it be nice if we could avoid side effects? And so there's a whole host of things. So, but perhaps the most important area to look at is what are the areas that the placebo effect seem to, have influence. So one of them is the body. So when you are told by an authority figure that you believe that you will get well, many cases you will. Similarly, when your doctor comes and says you're going to die in the next few days, the stress, the anxiety of believing that doctor often leads to a premature death. So in the body is one region in which the placebo effect is relevant. Another is grades in school or belief in intelligence and accomplishment. Now, this is interesting because when they take students and secretly tell the teacher that these 3 students are particularly bright and need to have opportunity to develop their brilliance, the teacher treats those students differently. The students pick up on the fact that that teacher believes that they are bright and believes in them, and so they believe in themselves, and their grades go up significantly, and they become the bright students that their teachers hypothesized or believed based on the scientific experiment, where they were randomly selected to be considered the bright ones. And the same is true in reverse, that when teachers are told, these are disabled and dysfunctional kids, they're real problems, teachers start off treating those children with disbelief, with skepticism, with dislike, which evokes the rebellious side in any child, and pretty soon those are the most problematic children in the classroom. So we can say that it affects the body, it affects intelligence, and it affects attitude. You can systematically draw out the worst in someone by believing that they're poorly. And in Michael Singer's book on, the something experiment, the surrender experiment, I believe it was, he talks about the fact that the FBI built a case against his software company based solely on the testimony of one con artist. And that con artist was able to successfully convince the FBI to spend 6 years and hundreds of millions of dollars of public money and require hundreds of millions of dollars in defense attorneys in order to demonstrate that nothing happened. So in other words, one con artist convinced a reasonable prosecuting attorney in the FBI to pursue a very nice company and set of people for 6 years based on the belief. And when your business is raided, when your own tax money is used against you, when you have been given a $200 million tax bill, it's very natural to become bitter, to become angry and act out in court, in which case you lose the sympathy of the jury and the judge, and so it's very easy to have a, well, then the acting out becomes the basis of dislike, attack, and prosecution. And so what we're looking at is this self-reinforcing aspect of belief, which might also be in that domain of the placebo effect. And that kind of brings up the fact that I think it's time for the placebo effect to be retitled as the effect of belief. That the effect of belief is contagious, first of all. We know this by, in Nassim Taleb's book, The Black Swan, that the people who are the most confident, regardless of their accuracy, the people who are the most confident are often the people who are believed. And those are the people that the public wants to see on TV. So pundits, you can think of like a Bill O'Reilly. And for better or for worse, Bill has a certainty, an arrogance, a sneering superiority in some cases, that he knows best, and that this should be done. And people like that because it gives them a sense of confidence as well, because emotion, as is referenced in This American Life, a PBS series it's wonderful to learn about, emotions are contagious. So beliefs, confidence are contagious. And so when a doctor with a confident attitude says, "You will be well," it's very easy to transmit that belief to a patient. Say, "Okay, I guess I will be well." And it's very easy for, "I guess I will be well," to translate into the body getting a message to do the things that will make the patient better. So if we rename the placebo effect the belief effect, then it's useful to understand the areas where belief is a potent and relevant causative force. So we can see that in the body. And we can see this in things like, for example, the belief that I am valuable and my body is valuable will result naturally in behavior, meaning it's not just belief as an abstraction. But one of the things that I think would be good, so we've moved placebo effect into the effect of belief. And if we turn the effect of belief into the process of communicating with the unconscious areas of human consciousness in such a way that we're programming an instinctual part of ourselves that is controlling. If you think of, like who controls the breath? Is it the conscious mind or is it the unconscious mind? And it's an unconscious program. We will breathe without thinking. We don't have to think to breathe. Who digests food? It's the unconscious mind. Who digests, meaning it's not random. It's not like the body is just randomly doing something. There's a whole system within the body that is not conscious. It's not in when we think, did I decide that? I didn't decide to digest this broccoli. And so if we think of belief as the language with which we communicate with the less conscious areas of our own psyche, of our own brain, now it becomes clear why it can be so powerful. So if the unconscious parts of our brain are maintaining much of our body functions, and the unconscious part of our brain is preparing to die in the belief that we're dying, there's going to be a different set of behaviors and responses versus the belief that we're living and preparing to live. And if we can think of belief as being the combination of a thought that is turned into imagery that is acted on, and in either, when you think of something like taking a pill, and you understand that the placebo effect is taking sugar pills, for example. So to get the placebo benefit, all you have to do is take some white sugar pills, and you will get 40% better on average, if you believe you will, meaning if the placebo is set up appropriately. For example, The unconscious associates authority with white coats and with hospitals and with the people of your culture. They are considered the experts, and they are the ones in which belief is given to. So if you're growing up in that culture, obviously if you grew up in a culture where the doctors had pink coats or the doctors had feathers, because the placebo effect works in tribal communities as well. A shaman can dance and sing without a white coat, without a hospital, and people can benefit from the placebo effect in a shamanic ritual. It's culturally referenced, meaning the culture lets the unconscious mind know what has the power. And then when that power is brought into the presence of the person, in this case with white coats in a hospital, and then medicine is understood to be little white pills. When you take the little white pills, you are now benefiting from the placebo effect. You have a 40% instant benefit to your health because of those pills. Now, this is remarkable when we understand that it includes surgery, like knee surgery. And so it affects the body. And if we think of the mechanism of a placebo, what takes place? Well, what takes place is, first of all, words. Second of all, correlation of authority and the person who's benefiting from the placebo effect. When someone says, but I saw it on TV. Well, TV is put forth as the authority. And so if it is as seen on TV, there are people who will believe it more than if they do not see it on TV. It's similar to book. As written in this book has a higher threshold of belief as your mom told me. Well, your mom told me, not a big authority. It was written in the book, maybe, a little bit more authority. It was written in a book by this author. Oh, I really believe that. It was written in a book and seen on TV by this author, by the main news interviewer. Oh, I really believe that, because that's the singular, that's the pinnacle of that culture's authority. Now, in a tribal situation, this might be, there were 3 eagle feathers, plus there was a lizard skin, plus there was this. I mean, all the authority symbols are bringing together. The power symbol of the lizard means this, and this kind of lizard is extra rare, and every one of those things is boosting the belief system. So you have the belief, which combines with imagery of the result, meaning when the doctor says you will get well, you hear the words, but you also create an image of getting well. And so you are now communicating through the language of, what was traditionally called the right brain, the symbology, with the less conscious arena of the brain through imagery. So you're getting an image and a belief and an emotion around that. And you are participating in a ritual that consummates the belief. Meaning, if I say this is the best investment in the world, and I've got $10,000 of cash, and I don't put any money into the investment, there's no ritual that integrates the words with the belief, because it doesn't make any sense to say this is the best investment in the world and I'm not going to invest my own money. What leads to the belief is in part the ritual, the action. So you have the belief, the imagery, the action, or the ritual that cements that I am invested in this belief. And now that belief will have a 40% impact, give or take, within certain domains, within the domain of the body, within the domain of education, within the domain of medicine, but also of life. When you believe that you're going to do really well in life, that gives you a 40% benefit than when you believe you're going to do terribly, particularly when that's grounded, meaning when it's like, gee, I'm going to have a long and happy life, so let's take really good care of my body because I don't want to, be having this long, happy life and then, not be able to move. So let me take care of my body, and I'm going to have a long and happy life. So let's really plan a career that's interesting. And I'm going to be with this woman or this man for a long time. And so let's invest and do it the right way. Let's build off on honesty and grace, and let's go for this. So relationship would be another terrain where if you believe a relationship can be great, and you believe it will last, you are going to do the things that make it great and are going to make it last. And so this is an issue of belief. And when you have two people involved in the belief, like I believe this relationship could really go somewhere, and I believe it could last, but the other person says, nah, I don't believe that. I don't believe it's going to go anywhere, and I don't think it's going to last, and it's not very important. Well, it's very hard for one person. Now you've got two beliefs in play. You've got two different placebo effects. One's a negative placebo, that I'm sure it's going to be miserable, so I'm not going to bother, so it's pretty miserable. And the other is I'm sure it can be great, and so I'm doing all this stuff to make it great, so it's becoming pretty great. And so in these areas where you have two placebo effects, two different belief systems, it will be the stronger, but they will wear each other down. It's a little bit like a battery. They're both contagious. And so if you have a fully charged battery and a fully dead battery and you connect them, the fully charged battery will drain rapidly and the fully dead battery will charge, and they'll both have a lukewarm charge at the end. So, think of that in relationship. If one person really believes that they're going to have a miserable life and nobody loves them and nobody will love them and their whole life is being alone and miserable and all of that, even if they're very attracted, even if they want to have a good relationship, if they believe it's going to be miserable, then every investment in the relationship is setting them up to fail more, and it feels painful. Why would they want to invest in in that kind of dynamic where it seems like it's miserable? So they're not going to, and so that's a dynamic in that relationship. So you do have generally. The negative belief has the advantage because the brain prioritizes negativity over positivity. So if you have some person who's convinced the relationship is going to fail, and one person is convinced the relationship is going to succeed, 90% of the time, if they have an equal charge, the relationship will fail because it will be painful every time the other person doesn't invest in the relationship. It will be painful. And there will be more and more evidence to dampen the belief that the relationship succeeds. If you say, I'm going to have a great relationship, and your date shows up lousy, poorly dressed, with a poor attitude, and sulks, and they do that 3 times in a row, well, what do you have as the evidence to base that belief on that this is going to be a great relationship? And the negative one, the person starts off nice, but, by the time they've shown up crappily on 3 dates, the other person is not interested. So then they say, see, I knew it all the time. It was not going to go anywhere. So there's a bias towards the negative that comes from the brain's exaggeration of pain, fear, and threats to survival in order to survive. So there's about a 500% margin, and John Gottman refers to this in their work on you have to give 5 appreciations, 5 positive statements to a partner for every negative statement, or the relationship crashes. And so, so that's a part of this process, and so so in life, in relationship in general, there's a huge benefit to having this belief. Now, where does the placebo effect or the belief ritual effect fail? Well, it fails in specific technical cases that do not involve the body. I mean, one of the reasons why the placebo effect in medicine is so potent is that the unconscious mind is interacting with the body, meaning in many cases, the unconscious mind is creating the disease and can heal the disease. They're getting mixed messages. If we understand that imagery is the language of the unconscious mind, and we understand that many of us have fear-based imageries often, and belief that things are going to get bad and I'm going to lose everything and all this, we can understand that the unconscious mind, which is not a moral or a judgmental mind. The conscious mind is moral. It says, I like that, that's bad. The unconscious mind is very much like a servant in the sense that if you tell it to make the body sick over and over again, it'll just go ahead and do it, assuming that you're at the control in the conscious mind, and it's kind of like a lever. I pick this belief and this image with this feeling, and that moves the unconscious mind to behave this way in the areas it affects, which relate to body. But they also affect life. For example, when you're interacting with people, 60% of your life is determined by the behavior of other people. And the unconscious and the subconscious mind can see other people's beliefs and behaviors on their body. They can see who they're dealing with, such that if they can succeed and if they can grow, there are facial expressions about that. There are body movement expressions. There are sense about that. In other words, the unconscious mind tunes into all kinds of things and cues in the environment that, like digestion, the conscious mind is not tracking. But the unconscious mind can recognize patterns. That smell has been associated with that behavior, whatever, the last 100,000 people we've connected with. That's not conscious. But if you tell the unconscious person, I want to be hit, I want to be raped, okay, that person has the smell. So that's the person you want to connect with. Okay, we'll sidle up and begin a conversation with them. It seems spontaneous or instinctual, but it's really a program from imagery and belief and emotion, unjudgmentally interpreted by the way imagery and the unconscious and subconscious are communicated with. So this is a really important thing. And there's lots of, just like in any family or group, there's lots of conflicting programs. I want to feel comfortable. Well, in this environment, the most comfortable thing is to get sick because everyone's sick. But I want to be healthy. So then which do you want more? There's these tensions to sort out. And so we give our subconscious and unconscious mind lots of different cues through imagery. So if we say that this is the case, so in life, if you make a mistake, but you are sure in your belief that you are a winner, well, then you pick yourself up and you correct and learn from the mistake. If you are sure you're a loser and you make a mistake, you say, see, this is the end. And so it is. Now, there's other areas that's important to understand that are not affected directly with the unconscious mind, where the placebo effect doesn't work. And, so you can give a body white sugar pills and have it get healthy. And they show it over and over again. However, let's take a car. Let's put diesel in a gasoline car and tell the car, or tell yourself, that this car and this trip is going to be amazing. It doesn't work. Because the car is not affected by the unconscious mind. It's not like, the body can change chemistry, can send cells, and the body is dynamic and always recreating itself. The car is more static. And it's not connected directly with the unconscious mind. The car the car is connected to itself. It has its own self-contained system. So if you put diesel in a gasoline car, if you put nitroglycerin in a gasoline car, if you put rocks in a gasoline car and believe it's going to work, it doesn't work. If you tell a 10,000-pound excavator or crane, come on, you can do it, to carry a 20,000-pound load, it's going to tip over. There's the arrange, the area that you have kind of miraculous interfaces is things like if you tell your unconscious you want to be healthy, but someone has clipped your brakes and you're going down a hill and you say, I can make it and I want to be healthy. Well, then miracles can occur. The brake cables don't connect, no. But your subconscious and unconscious mind has studied mountainsides and physics, etc., from day one, and knows the exact way where you could have the most bizarre rollover and no one gets hurt. And so it has real benefit to, when your body is involved and your choice is involved, to invest in that belief. I'm going to be all right and I want to be all right, and let me visualize being all right here. And communicate directly and clearly to the unconscious and subconscious mind. So the bottom line is that in the macro level, because so many things relate to people, in the macro level, if we believe that things will be great, that we will benefit from a placebo effect. We will invest in the future. That's one of the biggest determinants of things that will be great. If we invest in the future will be better. And why would you invest in the future if you believe it doesn't exist? And so in these areas, it's a tremendous benefit. So to utilize the placebo effect in your life, make a list of places you want to be in relationship, in your body, in work, in life. Make a list of places you want to be, number one. Number two, populate those with images. Number three, populate those images with emotions. I like that image. It's a great image, and I want to do that, and I want to do that. Populate that with images. And then based on that image, enact a ritual. If it's way in the future, write a bit of paper and sit down and pray, or whatever is your ritual that tells your unconscious that you believe. If it's, if Dan, do whatever it works. If it's a practical thing that you can act on, make a reservation, look online, reserve a name, make an action plan and take the first steps, and lock the belief in place with action. And you will have the benefit of a 40% force that is scientifically acknowledged, but scientifically misunderstood. It's a direct communication with the sub and unconscious mind that has literally 100,000 times more data than the conscious mind, because it has the whole pattern of a lifetime laid out. It's not conscious, but when you give it instructions, it has all the information about how to succeed.